about the new album by The Halo Effect. The album is called Days of the Lost. So the band comprises ex-members of the band In Flames. So as you would expect, they have a melodic metal sound, similar to other bands, like In Flames, Dark Tranquility, Amorphis, those types of bands. This is their debut album. In my opinion, they sounded a lot like the bands I just mentioned, as well as other bands like Carcass and Children of Bodom. I'll be talking about that throughout the most of the songs, the vocals are harsh vocals, but there are a few songs where they incorporate some clean vocals. The sound has a mix of that classic Gothenburg sound mixed with some like power metal. Now, on my first listen, I wasn't blown away. I think this is a band you need to give some time to. They have some like electronic sounds at some points, but they don't really overpower the album. They're just kind of there to add some flavor. But on a positive note, the production on this album is very good. This is the type of album where you do hear all the instruments very clearly. I didn't really find it too loud or compressed, and that's something common these days with metal albums. And I think this band is trying to balance out like the heavy and the melodic. With the guitar riffs, you do get a lot of those two things, heavy stuff. And now there are other songs that you think it's like, it sounds a lot like a power metal album. Like if they had changed the vocals, like it would have been like a lot different. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There's times when the riffs are very technical, and other times they kind of use these isolated guitar parts to bring out this heavy guitar sound. So the songs on this album do have enough to keep things interesting. Sometimes you think a song is going to be a ballad, but then they hit you with these heavy riffs and these blast beats. So there are times you do get caught off guard. This album is very consistent. Sometimes they add in some surprises, like maybe like a folk metal riff, but they don't do anything drastic to stray from their core sound. So the album opens up with Shadow Minds. This one has the harsh vocals, the melodic sound. Now my first impression was it sounded like Heartwork era Carcass. I think this song is a good album opener. It showcases the basic sound of the band, and it gives you a glimpse of what this album has to offer. The lead guitar riffs are very melodic. I also feel it has like a little of that like Children of Bodom sound, kind of like slightly less heavy but more melodic. Then the title track, it starts off like a typical power metal song, but then it kind of takes a turn. It gets heavy like a classic like In Flames song, but they do some other stuff to make it sound more like Children of Bodom with those melodic lead guitar riffs. The song still has harsh vocals. You don't really hear the clean vocals later on the album, but at this point, this album still sounds like that hard work era Carcass. Then The Needles End, it's a very melodic song, just like the song before it. Now, at first it sounds like power metal, but then they bring in these really heavy riffs. The melodic power metal riffs do get repeated throughout the song. And this one is, it's good. I felt it sounded a lot like old In Flames. The melodic riffing was memorable. They added some electronic stuff towards the end, and that added a little variety to the album. Conditional is a song you probably, you think it's going to be a ballad at first, but then when you least expect it, it gets really heavy, and it's actually one of the heaviest songs on the album. The pace is very fast. There are death metal riffs and blast beats. The rhythm to the song is very brutal, and it's just filled with just so much energy. This one reminded me again of Children of Bodom. It has heavy technical guitar riffs, and I think this is one of the best songs on the album. It's very heavy, but at the same time they keep it very melodic. In Broken Trust has some elements of like gothic and modern rock, and that's kind of like the overall sound to it. They still retain that classic Megadeth sound. This is the first song where you do hear the clean vocal, so the song would be closer to a band like Dark Tranquility or Amorphis. They alternate between like the heavy and the light vocals, and the clean vocals are just like that. They are like very clean. There's also a lot of like technical guitar solos, a lot of riffing, a lot of shredding, and just the album gives you a lot of that. And the thing about the clean vocals is that you can understand the lyrics. So, this is the part of the song where you can like follow along, and they do become memorable for that reason. Gateways, it's another song with a modern rock or gothic rock sound. This one has a slow building sound. The vocals can be very sinister. This one has a cool guitar riff. It reminded me of either like folk metal or maybe like Iron Maiden. I haven't really decided, but it's just that like simple riff that really stands out, and it makes this song like stand out amongst the other songs. So not everything sounds the same. This one has a nice groove to it. The mix has a lot of different sounds and textures, and it's probably also one of my favorites. The guitar riffs are more melodic in this one, and it seems they're getting more melodic as the album progresses, as most of the heavier stuff was on the front half, but you're going to see in a minute how a lot of heavier stuff is on like the back half as well. So A Truth Worth Lying, it's a little heavier, a little faster, but still very melodic. It's kind of like a high energy power metal song mixed with classic Megadeth. This one reminds me of In Flames, Dark Tranquility, and other Megadeth bands. This one also has some clean vocals, makes it more of a melodic song. The song has a nice level of energy. There are lots of technical riffs on the song. The outro is cool and has these folk metal acoustic passages. Feel What I Believe, it's fast and heavy and mixes those melodic riffs, kind of like part of a metal song with the speed and energy of death metal. This one is very fast and heavy with aggressive vocals and guitar riffs. They're both technical and heavy. This is a nice change of pace after like a few songs that were more laid back. But this one is filled with energy. There are parts of the song that get a little quieter. They kind of give you a breather, but the song stays heavy and it's just filled with classic Megadeth riffs. Last of Our Kind has a cool intro, and the intro sounds like cellos and violins. It has like this slow building intro, but like most of those songs on the album, it just gets very heavy very quickly. Has some blast beats and technical guitar riffs. The vocals are harsh and it reminded me of like Carcass again. So like I was saying, like they do bring back some of the heavier songs again towards the end. It's very good. It's mostly heavy, but they do add a little melody, take some twists and turns here and there. They do some different points with the different things with the vocals, but they are those harsh vocals, but they kind of like change them up a little, maybe go a little towards like a black metal style, but it's very interesting. You have to listen to the song to know what I'm talking about. And some of the vocals are, they're not really clean, but they're like almost clean. So that's another cool thing about this song. And the last song is called The Most Alone. This one is just a typical Megadeth song. Out of all the songs, this one like didn't really stand out at all, but it's pretty cool. It has some harsh vocals, some more like laid back stuff. This one was more of like a later day like Children of Bodom song. Not that bad, but there are some cool things. The bass guitar that stood out in the song, and the song is very good. It gets quiet and atmospheric. I really like the outro. It's kind of like like a slow outro. That was good. So this album, it was good. It was not anything groundbreaking in terms of originality, but the songs are good. They're memorable to some degree, and the sound was very similar to other bands. So that is something you would expect, being that it does have a founding member of the band In Flames, so that you're going to expect that. But the album is consistent. There are not any bad songs, but at the same time, not many of them really like stood out as being great. But there were a few I enjoyed more than others. So being that it is consistent, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. So compared to the other Megadeth records that were just released, it was better than the Amon Amarth album, but not as good as the Arch Enemy album that I just reviewed. So that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. That's all I'm going to say. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with some more stuff.